Welcome to block 5 of the speed agility unit of your athletic development program. Last block we talked a lot about the lateral mechanics of strength and power. Today we're going back on the sagittal, so it's the forward and back, up and down sort of mechanics. So there will be some lateral movements in this and some rotational, but predominantly it's a sagittal focused session. So as we did in the last one, we're going to start with a hopping technique. Now I recognize that people at home may not have hurdles and many different things. We're going to show you and illustrate how easy it is to develop a good beneficial power session with very limited equipment. So the first one, and you'll all be familiar with this, is a squat jump, right? So we have our subject here. Declan's going to show you what a squat jump is like. We got a squat jump and a counter movement jump, and they usually coincide together. And the difference between one and the other is what we call a stretch shortening cycle. So it's that quick, powerful movement. So you basically take that out in the squat jump and you put it back in for a counter movement jump, if you like. So squat jump requires you to get into like a low, deep squat, hold for 3 seconds, and then jump out of it. Okay. So again, and then you relax, and then you get into the movement again. Now, the important points here is that you start in a good squat position, jump up, but remember we said with the pogos and the A-skips and all those exercises is that toe up is very important. So when you get into the squat position, you're holding, and then you jump up and you create all that power through the hip, is when you get up, the toe remains up. So you get up into a nice straight, toes coming up position. And jump up as high as you can. Yep, perfect. So we're going to go for 5 repetitions on this one. So squatting down, hold 3 seconds, jump up and keep your toes up. The toes up is just going to encourage the nervous system to get into that good pattern that when you do land again, your toes are ready for impact and ready to apply force back in. The second exercise is a counter movement jump. So this is now where we start at the top, we drop down with our hands, we swing our hands in sync with us, so that's coming down, that's driving force all the way down for our muscles and everything beneath us to absorb, and then generate that into propulsion upward. Okay. Good, and the toes are come up, you can see it. Okay, it's never going to be perfect, toes aren't going to come up perfect every time, but that's what we're trying to achieve on every repetition. Again, 5 repetitions, squatting down, jumping up, toes up, very good. Good, and what I often say about plyometrics or jumping and all that, I talk about the force that we want to apply, which is going to determine how high we jump, the time on the floor, which is not so much important for these jumps, but they will be in other jumps. But then the third thing that doesn't get often mentioned is the timing of the force. Okay, so the timing of the force is when all those forces, and you can't see them, are going down through the body. It's the timing of them to come up again. So it's not, don't try and do this as forceful as you possibly can and lose all technique and all integrity of movement. Control it, come down, and then try and drive up again. And you will feel the differences. You'll feel a good jump versus a bad jump, and that's what we're trying to achieve. As many good reps as we can is going to benefit you, rather than just doing 5 as fast as you can with kind of no integrity to the movement. The next one, so we're going to use so any one of these, just step in front of these, Declan, anyone. So actually I'll bring it back a little bit for the camera. So at home, if you have anything, a hurdle, a teddy, a weight, something that's not too triple hazardy that you can jump over. So all we're going to do is jump over the hurdle. When you jump over the hurdle, it's just kind of a challenging height for you to get over, and then you're going to transfer this sort of horizontal force into a vertical force. So you're jumping over it, again with all the techniques we discussed before, and then jumping up as high as you possibly can. So a little bit forward jump into a driving up, and toes up again in that movement. Okay, so we'll go back again a few more reps. So again, 5 repetitions of each one, jumping over it, and jumping up as high as you can, keeping your toes up when you get up. So now the last 2 exercises are just being challenged in a different way. Okay, so yeah, a couple more repetitions. Let's do our 5 reps all together. See if we can note any coaching points. So good So good use of hands. They're swinging in proportion to where we want the forces to go. Decent toe up on the last reps. Good. And again, just what Declan we often talk about. He likes to stand narrow on his jumps. But what a narrow does, then it doesn't allow for optimum mechanics to happen. So make sure when you land, you're in that hip width position where you started from here. So that's a good optimal position. I want him to land in that position when he jumps forward. Allows him then to generate a bit more force. So there's something you're always working on. It's something that you might find at home what you're doing. And again, another thing what Declan isn't doing here is you might jump forward and find yourself flexing forward too much. If you find you're not getting into a nice little quarter squat position, then just kind of keep your head up, look forward when you land, so you're not looking down on the floor. That might be another error that might be happening. Now, next one, again, we're just adding integrity to the movement. You're going to stand on one side again. At home, actually I'll bring these forward. At home, you might not have the luxury of hurdles or cones, all right? But you can visualize 5 cones in a row or 6 cones in a row. And these are only for guidelines, so you don't have to go over these, just use them as a guideline. So if you step here just 2 meters to the left of these cones, just use them as a guideline. So we're going to do a counter movement jump over each of these. So it's a bit of a tuck also as you get over them. So we're going to demonstrate here. I'll talk you through it as we go. Up, over. So basically, what we have been doing now in a series of jumps. So every time you land, think of how high I can jump up, and then how little time I can spend on the floor. So we'll do one more repetition back. We got 5 of these to do, yeah. 5 jumps, jumping up as high as you can, up as high as you can, high as you can. Good. So again, you do that 5 times, and then you got 3 rounds of all these to do again. So you go back to the first one, go through all them again, back to the first one, all the way through again. So, and the reason why that is, we want to randomize the movement challenge, so that every time you come back in, you'll retain better movement than just doing a block of them, moving onto a block of them, moving onto a block of them. So you got to challenge the movement as we go around. Okay, so there are hops for this. As you can see, very much a sagittal, up and down, forward and back. A challenge, not much lateral movements in this. Last block was very much lateral focused. Now we'll go back over to our sort of fundamentals of good movement. So we're going back into our acceleration. So if you want to come down to the top cone here, we're going back over, remember, our acceleration and our deceleration mechanics. Now you've done these for a few blocks for me, so I won't go over all the things again. But remember, it's a good athletic position to get into. That's a starting position. Starting position drives everything. So a good starting position is what I say is a jump position. So a good athletic position is a position where I feel comfortable jumping from, running forward, sprinting behind myself, going left or right, or rotating, right? So you need to find that kind of neutral position. You just check yourself, do I feel comfortable jumping from here? Typically you're in a good position. So standing upright, if I was to jump from here, I'd have to drop down to jump up, so that's not the right position. So from here I can jump up without too much prior movement beforehand. That's the position. So going to get into a good position. Remember the acceleration mechanics here. The drop step first creates that forward lean, which allows me then to get over my inertia. Allows me a low foot carriage, which means my knees are not coming up too high. I'm staying close to the floor. I'm in that pistol action with my hands driving myself to accelerate myself to the first cone in front. So get into a good position, have a little sprint, and decelerate on the first cone that you see here. Yep. And decelerate. Good. Good. And back to the start. So again, we're doing 5 repetitions. Each of the 5 repetitions, we're going to change the starting position. So that was 1. And what I'll say on the deceleration is always show the same way on the first set, because you're going to do 2 sets of 5, all right? So now we're going to face away from me. So again, now we're looking for that drop set to happen with the right leg pushing off, like stepping out of my center mass and then driving myself forward. I'm rotating my hips at the same time. Same athletic acceleration mechanics, decelerating on the same side. Off we go. Outside the center of mass, decelerate, good, and back. And just on to touch on the deceleration mechanics, again, it's in that good jump position to find yourself. Because remember, when you decelerate, you probably have to do a movement after, either try and win the ball back, accept the ball, run again. So you need to be in a good position once you decelerate. There's no point in being in a poor position and then have to readjust and then go again. It's all time lost on the pitch. Okay, next one, face the other way. Yeah, same thing here again, stepping outside the center mass, and then drive. And decelerate the same way. So we changed how we decelerated there, but make sure you just decelerate the same way all the time on the first set. And just going to re-emphasize that, so if I'm running off my left side, so it's a drop outside my center of mass as I rotate my hips. So it's a quick turn to accelerate myself forward, and it's not too far. You're not putting all your weight on here. This is just, that step is to create the forward lean. It's not to put all my weight on that side. It's just to create that sort of imbalance of equilibrium, so I'm not just here, I'm forward and I'm already kind of catching myself as I get into acceleration mechanics. Okay, face away from me, we're going to go over our left shoulder again, and mechanics here again, same, it's always principally the same thing. That's what's cool about this, is it doesn't change. Principally the same thing. As I step outside the center of my mass, I need to turn my hips. Acceleration mechanics are the same now because I'm facing forward. Okay, so turning over your left side and accelerate, good. And again, showing one way, and the last one is the other side. Yeah, so facing away from me, but turn over your other shoulder. Good, and then sprint and decelerate. So when you're turning over your shoulder, when you're turning over your left and right shoulder, when you're doing it, remember that it's a step, but also in sync. That's why it's a good coordination that my hips turn. And the analogy I use to like the table football, where the bar is across the body and you spinning the guys around the table. Imagine that's through your head. So you're swiveling on yourself very, very quickly as you're getting the mechanics in. So I'm here, I'm stood, and I'm spun as I'm turning. And that allows me then to, rather than go step and then I'm outside, look at my heat map, if you like, is now wider, that if I was able to turn in myself, I'm already in that nice position to accelerate from. Okay, so you do 2 sets of that. You practice obviously all them again, but then decelerating, showing your left hip or your right hip, depending on which one you did first. And now we're on our speed stuff. Okay, so be patient when we're not on maximum speed yet, and there's a rationale for that. We're on 90% now, okay, so only go up to 90% on any of these repetitions. I'm going to use the same format, so Declan's going to do some movement, and I'll explain to you what they are. 6 repetitions, 6 different movements. Once he hits this cone, he's opening up into a 90% and decelerating slowly down there again. It's important that those factors are in place, is that they will allow for a deceleration. I don't want you to stop dead after going 90%, right? That's not what we want. That will happen in the game, but that's a huge mechanical demand on the body. So slow down gradually once you hit that marker. Now the markers here are 10 meters and 30 meters to allow yourself to get into that 90%. The 90% should be at 90. Don't push it over. There's no medals here for going 100%. We don't need to go there yet, the level where we're at with restrictions and everything else. Just take your time and we'll embed them when we need to. Okay, so the first one is an A skip. So we get an A skip out to the first cone, ignore these cluster cones here, and then we're going to sprint out 30 meters and then slow down gradually. So go back to the subject over here. So you got your A skips. Let's see how good your A skips game is. Challenge you at home as well to get into good positions. Off we go, 10 meters of A skips, good A skips. Toes up, head looking forward, and then into a 90%. Now, coaches never like sprinting maximally, neither do I, so we're not going to sprint 90% here, but at home, you're the athletes and you should be getting up to that 90%, right? Now what I would say is, never going to go from 0 to hero, are you? So just graduate yourself up to, if you get 2-3 reps of 90%, I'm more than happy than that. The first 2 reps might be 60, 70, 80, and then the last 3 become 90%. All right, on the next one is your B skips, right? We can just, it's quite a challenging one, and I've had feedback about the B skips that it's very hard to master. So we're just going to walk through it in a marching. If you're good at B skips, go and do your B skips, right? If you can do them in the pattern that we can. So we're just going to march through it, right? So we're just going to come up, and the cycle is you come around and scrape the balls of your feet off the floor as you come around. So it's just that position, and get your hands moving as best you can. You're coming around. So you're going to try it. So at home, it doesn't like B skips, told me before, so we're going to challenge it here, but it's okay to not be perfect at any of these movements. I just want you to put yourself outside your comfort zone to try and get a coordination, a pattern going. So off you go, Deck. Good, okay, come around, you're just getting the coordination pattern. There's nothing wrong with exploring the movement at home. So try and get that knee up, coming around, scraping the floor. Once the key and critical components are there, I'm happy, because the hamstring is still working. Okay, and then open up to 90%. And then slow down gradually again. Okay, and then you come back. Now we're going to go into straight line running this time, before we go into something a bit more sort of functional for your sport. So straight line running, again, it's just that demanding of the hamstring, if you like, and the running. Some of the best exercise that we can do for our hamstrings and protect ourselves is in the function that the problems where they happen, is usually sprinting. So getting our hamstrings working in the most functional capacity can be some of the best exercises we can do for our hamstrings. Okay, so straight leg running, when we're ready, of course. Straight leg running, I think you know this technique. So balls your feet hit the floor every time, and you accelerate as you're getting to 10 meters, and then you open up into that 90%. Okay, let's go. Balls your feet, good. And then it accelerates out into a sprint. Perfect, and then slow down gradually. Okay, good. Rep number 3. Now 4 and 5 and 6 are a bit more functional to the game, I would say. So the first one, we're going to do a lateral shuffle. So I see this happen a lot in training and in different motions, and generally it's a bit of a laziness, or maybe there's a misunderstanding what I was trying to achieve. People go, so the common mistake is you do a lateral shuffle and you do the hands clip together and I'm all this, and okay, I'm moving the lateral plane, but it's doing nothing, right? So what you need to do is you need to get into a good position. Again, athletic position, I keep keep banging on about it, but it's in a good position here. The feet are not too far apart and the feet don't cross too narrow, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to overload is a pattern of a lateral shuffle on the pitch, which will happen not very long time. You're not going to be doing 10 meters of it, but loading in that pattern is a good way to just transfer it and give the brain and the nervous system that vocabulary to get into a good lateral position when you have to. So again, we're staying in this position and we're shuffling across, and then when we get to here, we're sprinting. So yes, there's a lot of contact on the floor, but what I'm saying is you're always in a good position to move from. If you start trying to get it there as fast as you can and crossing your feet and then like laterally, like a Bambi across the meadows, then that's not going to transfer to your sport. So make sure you get into a good position, laterally shuffle to the cone and then into your sprint position. So we get in again, laterally shuffle, keep that feet apart, and into a sprint. Good. And the other thing as well, just what you might find is as you're going through it, the feet might change in their orientation, if you like. They might start externally rotating it, and we don't want that either. We want to keep them sort of pointed forward, and you're always in the, think about, I'm just challenging that athletic position, is what I'm doing. So again, we'll try the other side. Same thing again. So you face away from the camera. Good jump position all the way through the movement. Yeah, shuffling across, shuffling last, good. Yeah, feet forward, good. And into a sprint. Very easy to get this exercise almost meaningless to you, but if you get the benefit from it and you keep the integrity, it can transfer into better mechanics on the pitch. And the last one is jockeying. So again, I used about the heat map before. I want a kind of a big heat map on this, so it's not just a jockey here and turning here. I want a jockey to see you actually moving here, again with the same sort of same message here, with the feet nice and wide apart. So you're going to go 2 left, 2 right, shuffling backwards and laterally, if you know what I mean, at 45-degree angle until you hit the cone, and then open up into the sprint. 2 left, keep the feet wide, good, yeah. Good. So it's going to be more of a challenge now as you transition across. And what often happens is when they're going from this way then to this way, it comes across narrow and then I step. I want you to go here and then open up, so I'm still allowing that wide base of support to move from. Okay, that's your session. You do that 3 times, so 3 times 6 again, and building up to that 90%. Do not go over 90%. Try and maintain and try and recognize what we're trying to achieve here. You're getting a nice volume of high-speed running in this. You're getting a nice volume of sprint distance without going to the high end, because the mechanical demand of sprinting is tough. The game requires us to be able to sprint, but not every game, not all the time. We sprint, we sprint distance a lot, we high-speed at running a lot, so then we'll be more functional, and we will eventually get to that max in where we have to go top-end speed in the coming blocks. So hope you enjoy it. Hope you see the relevance to your sport. Keep practicing, keep the consistency, and we're not far away from returning.